What begins as a story about Moria being arrested and thrown into a Paraguayan prison becomes a reflection on identity, family, aging, freedom, and reinvention. Moria enters prison convinced that the jewelry case is a setup and struggles to understand why someone like her, who spent her entire life living outside conventional expectations, ended up behind bars. But during her time in prison, she discovers something she never expected, a genuine connection with the women around her. By the end, Moria is released, reunited with her daughter Sofia, becomes a grandmother, closes an important chapter of her career, and looks back on her entire life. The finale begins with Moria being taken into custody in Paraguay after authorities find 1.6 grams of cocaine among her belongings. She's also accused of stealing expensive jewelry. Moria claims the jewelry accusation is a setup. Her lawyer believes the jeweler and event organizer may have been trying to collect insurance money by blaming Moria for the supposed theft. The jewelry itself may not even be worth the enormous amount being claimed, but the cocaine is a much bigger legal problem. Moria's lawyer warns her that the drug charge could have serious consequences, which is why Moria has to undergo psychological evaluations and regular testing. For Moria, the entire experience feels surreal. She can't understand how her life has led her into a prison cell, and that is exactly why the prison becomes important to the story. At first, Moria sees prison as the absolute bottom of the hole, but rather than allowing that experience to destroy her, she begins looking at it as an opportunity to reflect. She tells the psychologist that being imprisoned at 69 feels almost like a spiritual retreat. Moria spent her life constantly reinventing herself. She describes herself as someone who can communicate with her future self, allowing her to change and evolve rather than becoming trapped by one version of her identity. In other words, Moria doesn't see herself as someone who has a fixed personality. She sees herself as someone who's always becoming someone new. That's why prison doesn't break her. Instead, she adapts to it. She learns Guarani from the other inmates, accepts their food and gifts, jokes with them, receives massages, talks about life, and even uses her own money to help repair the prison's broken air conditioning. The woman who entered prison feeling like a celebrity surrounded by strangers becomes part of the community. When Moria's lawyer tells her that she's going home, she becomes emotional because she knows she's leaving women behind who may remain imprisoned for years. She admits that she was actually happy there. That doesn't mean she enjoyed being incarcerated or that she believes prison is a good thing. Instead, Moria realizes that the women gave her something she wasn't expecting: connection. They treated her like one of them. They welcomed her, gave her food, taught her their language, and shared their lives with her. For someone whose entire public identity is based on being larger than life, that ordinary human connection becomes meaningful. Moria leaves prison emotionally changed by the people she met there. She returns to Argentina and reunites with Sofia, but Sofia tells her mother that she's pregnant with a boy named Dante, and Moria is thrilled. The news is meaningful because throughout the finale, Moria identifies her daughter and family as her greatest vulnerability. During the psychological evaluation, she calls her family her kryptonite. For all of her confidence and independence, the people she loves are the one thing capable of breaking through her defenses. Now, Sofia's pregnancy represents the continuation of Moria's family beyond herself. Moria isn't just looking backward at the life she already lived, she's looking toward another generation. The story then moves into Moria's later life. She continues working, performs witches thousands of times, and reaches the end of that chapter of her career. The theater farewell is important because Moria's identity has always been deeply connected to performance. For decades, she created different versions of herself for the public. But when Witches finally ends, she's forced to confront another question. Who is Moria when she's no longer performing that role? The answer is that she doesn't need one fixed answer. She can reinvent herself again. That's what she always did. Moria asks Sofia if she can forgive her, and Sofia says yes. Moria tells her that she loves her and asks that they stop fighting. The two joke that they're both beautiful nut jobs. Moria's greatest fear has never been losing her celebrity status. It's been losing the people closest to her. Moria is able to accept that her family is the part of her life that matters most. As the story moves further into the future, Moria embraces her growing family, including Dante and Helena. She jokes about refusing to be reduced to the ordinary role of granny. Even when she becomes a grandmother, she refuses to let a conventional label define her. But underneath the joke, Moria realizes that her life is continuing through the next generation. She may disappear, but her family, memories, stories, and influence will continue. That connects directly to her obsession with immortality. During her psychological evaluation, Moria says she wants to be immortal. By the end, she finds a more realistic version of that immortality. She can't live forever, but she can continue through the people she influenced and the family she leaves behind. Moria looks back on her life and describes it almost like a constellation, in which all of the different pieces have finally come together. Her friends, family, the press, her career are there, the people who impersonated her are also there, and all the different versions of Moria that she created throughout her life are now part of the same person. The point is that none of those identities were fake, they were all pieces of her. The actress, celebrity, provocateur, mother, grandmother, friend, and public personality all exist at the same time. The prison experience becomes another point in that constellation. It's not the thing that defines Moria, it's another chapter in the story. One of Moria's most important ideas throughout the finale is that sometimes you have to reach the bottom of the hole before you can climb back out. That becomes a metaphor for the entire series. Moria's arrest is her descent, prison is the bottom, her release is the climb back up. But she doesn't come out of prison the same person who entered it. She gained perspective, she formed unexpected relationships, she confronted her own vulnerability, and she was reminded that her family is the part of her life she can't control or reinvent. The whole becomes her transformation. Moria spent her entire life turning herself into a cultural phenomenon rather than being a person in the public eye. By calling herself the Republic, she turns Moria into her own nation. She has her own mythology, her own language, her own rules, and her own universe. And after everything she experienced, she refuses to surrender that identity. The ending of Moria is about her discovering that her greatest form of immortality is love, family, memory, and the ability to leave a piece of herself behind in other people. She enters the story surrounded by cameras, controversy, and accusations, wondering how she ended up at the bottom of the hole. She leaves it having climbed back out, not by becoming a different person, but by understanding herself. Moria survives by continuing to reinvent Moria Kazan, and after everything the finale puts her through, that may be the closest thing she has to immortality.